So let's talk about the hip stability exercise. What is it? What is it supposed to do for us, and how do we do it? So the hip stability exercise is kind of self-explanatory in its name. It's meant to help improve the overall stability of our hips. But specifically, it's going to help us improve the strength of our lateral hip muscles, or these muscles on the outside of our hips, okay? Those muscles are really important for our hip functionality, but because our legs also come up and attach into our hips, if our hip muscles aren't working and we don't have proper hip stabilization, it can actually negatively affect how our legs work, and specifically our knees. Our knees and hips kind of work together, okay? So a lot of us are doing things to help improve our leg strength and make sure our knees are stable and working properly, but we also need to be working on our hip stability and our hip strength to make sure that those two components that work together are able to operate at optimum levels. So let's learn how to do the hip stability exercise. So we're actually going to be doing this exercise standing up, and we're going to be using an exercise band for this, okay? So let me get that ready for you guys, and then I'll explain to you how to do the exercise. All right, so let's learn how to do the hip stability exercise. So as you can see, we're going to use a looped exercise band for this exercise. You're actually going to bring it up and put it right above your knees, okay? There's actually another way to do this where you put it around your ankles or your feet. That's actually the harder way to do it, so feel free to do that if you want. But for now, let's just start with the band right above your knees, okay? You want to start with a light resistance band. If you don't have a looped exercise band like this, they're really cheap, and you can find them pretty much anywhere. So Amazon.com is great for that. You can go to Smith's, Target, whatever store kind of has your generic exercise equipment. Ask someone for a looped exercise band. They more than likely will have them there, okay? And they're super, super cheap. But yeah, wrap it up right above your knees. When you're doing this with a band, you typically want the band on top of some kind of clothing. So for me, I have it over my pants. If you're wearing shorts, you'll want it over shorts, or if you put it down around your ankles or feet, you'll want socks, just because the material of the band can sometimes rub on your skin and it's not super comfortable, okay? So just kind of be aware of that. But from here, once you get your band positioned, and please position or get it in position seated, okay? Don't try and balance and stand up and be a hero and end up falling over. So do this while you're seated. But once you get your band there, go ahead and stand up, because the exercise is actually going to be done standing up on your feet, okay? So if you stand up, and you want a room with enough space on both sides of you, okay? Because we're actually going to be kind of using the space of the room here. But for your startup position, all you're going to do is going to bend your knees kind of down into a mini squat, okay? Keeping your torso nice and upright in good posture. And then you're going to look down at your feet and your knees, okay? You want your feet pointing straight forward, okay? Almost like if you were standing on railroad tracks or had a pair of skis on it, you want to be pointing straight forward. You just don't want your feet turned out or turned in, okay? As you're checking your feet, also check your knees. If your knees are getting pulled in like this, okay, make sure you're pushing out against that band. You don't want to be way out bow-legged, but just push out against that band enough so your knees, feet, and hips are all in alignment, okay? If you can't get your knees out so they're straight in line with your feet and your hips, get a lesser resistance band. You're probably using too much resistance, or the band is too small of a loop, so figure that out if you need to. But you're in this mini squat position, feet, knees, hips, all in alignment, pointing straight forward. And then from here, all we're going to do is we're going to sidestep, okay? So I'm going to go this direction, but you're just going to sidestep out and then come back together. You don't need to bring your feet all the way together, but just kind of come back to a normal, comfortable position. So sidestep out and come back. And then you're going to go back the other way. So sidestep out, and you're just going to sidestep back and forth across your room. Okay, so I like to go out like 3 times one way, and then 3 times back the other way so I can stay balanced, okay? A few things to watch for. A lot of people, as they start doing this exercise, when they go to step, so if I step out this way, when they go to step, they kind of turn their foot. They kind of do this. And before they know it, they're sidestepping with their feet out like this, okay? Some people do the opposite, kind of turn their feet in. It just kind of depends. But you want to watch your feet. Make sure that they're staying straight forward. And likewise, watch your knees. Make sure you're not collapsing in or going too far out. Everything's just nice in alignment as you go. Other thing to watch for, a lot of people, rather than using their lateral hip muscles, and this is where you're going to feel it, right on the sides of your hips, rather than using these muscles here, they kind of do these leaning big steps and they kind of throw their leg out, so they kind of see them wobbling back and forth like this, okay? So make sure your torso is staying nice and strong, nice and upright, legs and hips are nice and strong, and as you go, there's really not a lot of movement. Your chest kind of stays level in height as you're going back and forth. Again, you're not doing these big leaning, loping steps, okay? So watch those things. As far as sets and reps go, really just start with what you can. This is a pretty difficult exercise. You're gonna feel it starting to burn in the outside of your hips as you're doing this. So if you need to start just going a few back and forth, that's great. I typically like to try and do like 2 sets of 10, or you can even do something called a ladder, where you go one out one direction, then one back, and then you do 2, and then you come back 2, then you go 3, and you work your way back and forth all the way up to 10. That's pretty hard to do, but you can also try something like that if you want. But again, it's quality over quantity. Start with where you're at. Just make sure you're doing enough to get a good workout in those lateral hip muscles without those compensations that I was showing you with the feet, the knees, and the leaning. Just get to where you can and then go from there. But that's a great exercise for lateral hips. Going to help stabilize the hips, going to train the knees and feet to work in conjunction with the hips, and actually work a little bit with your upper body as well, trying to maintain spine mobility so you're not doing that big leaning stuff as you go. But super great exercise for your hip stability, and that's how you do the hip stability exercise.